say you're not a neutral platform anymore, you're a publisher, like a newspaper, like Rebel News, and you can be held liable. Donald Trump did not fight back, so they canceled him. Then they tried it with Uganda by censoring their enemies list there, and the president of Uganda said, get rid of them all. Those Yankee colonizers anyway. Oh, you can't do that. Hey, Uganda, come on, we're against censorship, man. We're for free speech. No, you're not, you damned liars. We just saw you censored your own president. Let's go north and west to a country in East Africa called Uganda. And I've never been to Uganda, but I know a lot of people from Uganda. How on earth would I know people from Uganda? Because Uganda and Tanzania and Kenya, 3 countries in East Africa that are near each other, there were a lot of Ismaili Muslims there. Ismaili Muslims are a denomination of Islam. Some parts of Islam don't even regard them as real Muslims. They call them apostates. But they're called Ismaili Muslims, and they follow the Aga Khan, who has been dragged into the news by Justin Trudeau. So I'm a fan of Ismaili Muslims, and I've been friends with Ismaili Muslims since I was a child. Because in 1972, I think it was 72, maybe it was 71, I better check, Idi Amin, a madman, I think he was actually insane. I think he was a cannibal, actually, which can make you insane. You can. He seized power in Uganda, and Ismaili Muslims were not black; they were brown. And Idi Amin, this crazy murderer, dictator, tyrant, announced, and I'm going from memory, so I might be slightly off in my timing here. He said, because the Ismaili Muslims and other Indian, like East Indian people, were very successful. They were sort of the business class. They were sort of like the Jews, you know, corner stores, professionals, doctors, lawyers kind of thing. And so they were wealthy and they were successful. And by the way, very moderate, very progressive, very charity-minded. If you know Ismailis, you know they're very charitable. In Canada, they have something called the Partnership Walk, which is a fundraiser, like a charity, tons of charity. Wonderful people. But they were a scapegoat for Idi Amin. So he said, get out of this country in 2 weeks or we'll murder you. He basically did a Ugandan version of threatening the Holocaust, really. He said, we'll kill you all. And there was this panic, and thousands and thousands and thousands of Ismaili Muslims had to leave Uganda immediately. And in probably the single best policy decision that Pierre Trudeau ever made was he took in thousands of these people, peaceful, progressive, liberal, refugees, business-oriented, educated, wonderful, wonderful people, and they came to Canada, perhaps the single most successful wave of immigrants in Canadian history. I don't know. I don't know every wave of immigrants in Canadian history, so there may be others. But in terms of absolute economic, cultural, political success, I think the Ismaili refugee migration in the early 70s was probably up there. And that's where I met, from that community, Naheed Nenshi, now the mayor of Calgary. He's a socialist, but don't put that on Islam. Raheem Jaffer, who was my roommate and ran for Parliament in Edmonton Strathcona years ago. And if you look around the country, so many successful people are Ismaili Muslims. And that's what I know about Uganda. It was a place that was enriched by the Ismailis until Idi Amin smashed it. And if you want to see a terrifying movie, I think it's called The Last King of Scotland. Have you ever seen that one? Last King of Scotland? I just forgot the name of that actor. You want to just play, give me 5 seconds of the trailer of The Last King of Scotland. Obviously it wasn't about Scotland, it was about Uganda. And oh, I just can't, Forrest Whitaker, is that the name of the actor? Yeah, Forrest Whitaker played Idi Amin. He's a big guy, and he played Idi Amin very well, just very uncanny. Give me a little sound.
How many doctors do you have here?
Well, there's me, and now there's you.
You seem an unlikely candidate for this kind of work.
They want to make a difference, you know.
I may wear the uniform of a general, but in my heart, I am a simple man. I am you.
What's going on?
The president wants to see you now. You are British.
I'm Scottish.
Scottish? Why didn't you say so?
This is the sort of man a president needs around you.
You want me to be your physician?
I want to introduce you to my wife.
What you need
Is to have some fun.
You have been known to devour your enemies.
eat my enemies. I chicken.
Have you any idea what's going on in this country? They're not even bothering to dig graves anymore.
Great movie. Very exciting. Have you ever seen that one? You haven't seen that one? Does that trailer make you want to see it? Forrest Whitaker, boy, he's got that look of a crazy guy. And did you hear that question? It has been said that you devour your enemies. She meant that literally. I mentioned cannibalism. Did you hear me say that like 2 minutes ago? I think he was a cannibal, which, by the way, there's a disease you can get from cannibalism that does make you crazy. So Uganda did a terrible thing to the Ismaili people and a terrible thing to itself by ejecting this most successful, beneficent class, and it was to Canada's benefit. So thank you for letting me go on a 5-minute tangent about Ismaili Muslims. And I regard myself as very lucky to have had such an introduction to Ismaili Islam when I was very young. My first introduction to Islam, really, in a personal way, was with this most progressive liberal branch of Islam. And I think that personal knowledge, before I was political, before I was woke, to meet actual young people growing up as a teenager who came from there, and to meet them and get to know them just as a guy, before the events of 9/11 and whatnot colored our world, knowing the Naheeds and the Rahims really inoculated me against a blanket rejection of Islam. And to this day, I regard my friendship with progressive Muslims as key to keeping a balance in this world. By the way, can you throw Rahil's book up? Our chairman, Rahil Raza, just before Christmas released her book called The ABCs of Islamism. Everything you wanted to know about radical Islam, but were afraid to ask. That's a pretty serious book, isn't it? So thank God for progressive Muslims. And we're so very proud to have a long-time working relationship with Rahil Raza, who's now our chairman. So I just turned that into a 10-minute detour, but I wanted to show that movie clip. So Uganda. I don't know much about Uganda. I know that after decades went by, they reached out to the Ismailis they had ejected and said, come back, help us rebuild. We've set back since we kicked you out. Please come back. And some did. Some went back, and it, like the Jews of Europe, they went back to see that their factories or other properties were seized. I don't know how that story ends, but I remember when Uganda sort of said, hey, Ismailis, come on back. All of that is just to tell you everything. I've just told you everything I know about Uganda. There's nothing more that I know about Uganda until yesterday, when I saw this tweet from Twitter's official policy branch. And here's what Twitter said. Ahead of the Ugandan election, we're hearing reports that internet service providers are being ordered to block social media and messaging apps. We strongly condemn internet shutdowns. They are hugely harmful, violate basic human rights and the principles of the open internet. And you see that's from, just scroll up a tiny bit, Twitter public policy, and you see the blue check mark, so you know that's not a satirical site or a parody site. Twitter public policy actually wrote this yesterday. Last week, they banned for life the sitting president of the United States, banned his staff, and went on a banning spree of everyone they disagree with. And now they're saying, hey, Uganda, how come you're shutting us down? We strongly condemn internet shutdown. Oh my God. And then they go on, well, this is very interesting. Earlier this week, in close coordination with our peers, we suspended a number of accounts targeting the election in Uganda. If we can attribute, so they're colluding in close coordination with our peers. That's a fancy way of saying we formed a cartel. Twitter and YouTube and Facebook got together, three so-called competitors, and decided to target the government in Uganda. So the government of Uganda did something that maybe Donald Trump, if he could have the last 2 months back, maybe he would have done it. He said, hang on. You're going to ban me? You're going to ban moi? No, we're going to ban you. Now, I don't believe in banning things. First Amendment suggests that probably wouldn't go. But maybe Trump would have repealed by some executive order or through legislation Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which makes internet companies immune from lawsuits. They're the only industry that can't be sued. A newspaper can be sued. I can be sued. But Twitter, YouTube, Google, Facebook, all the socials, they can't be sued for their editorial decisions. The idea was, if you are like a phone booth and anyone can use you to say anything, you can't sue the phone booth company for what someone says on the phone, right? It's like a bulletin board where anyone can stick a notice on it. It's just a platform. It's not a publisher. They didn't write anything. They didn't edit anything. They didn't take anything down. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act says that bulletin boards or phone booths or internet companies cannot be held liable for editorial decisions going on them. And if they take down things that are criminal or obscene, you can't hold them liable for that either. So it really protects everything that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google does. That was the original intent. But now, YouTube, Facebook, Google, Twitter, they delete presidents, they delete rivals, they suppress things, and they say, what? You can't touch us, Section 230. No. You're not a neutral platform anymore. You're not the phone booth that anyone can come in, put in a quarter, and make a call to anyone. You screen who can come in your phone booth. You screen who can put a quarter in. You listen into the calls, and you hang up on people if you don't like what they have to say. You're not a neutral platform anymore. You're a publisher, like a newspaper, like Rebel News, and you can be held liable. Donald Trump did not fight back, so they canceled him. Then they tried it with Uganda by censoring their enemies list there, and the president of Uganda said, get rid of them all. Those Yankee colonizers anyway. Oh, you can't do that. Hey, Uganda, come on, we're against censorship, man. We're for free speech. No, you're not, you damned liars. We just saw you censored your own president. There was some really funny tweets in reply. One of them said, Twitter, build your own Uganda. You know, that's the phrase. Oh, you don't like it? Build your own app. Oh, it was destroyed by the Apple App Store and the Android App Store. Well, build your own Apple and Google. Oh, you did? Well, you can't host, like Parler, build their own, that's a rival to Twitter. Oh, well, oh, you did build your own app. Oh, okay. Okay, we're just going to, yeah, look at all. It's a private country. Twitter and Facebook go start their own Uganda. That's funny. And look at that guy there. I don't know who that is. I presume that's the new president of Uganda. He's got a stylish hat on and a yellow shirt. And he's just looking like the kind of guy who would ban Twitter and Facebook and say, start your own Uganda. I'm not going to try and do the Ugandan accent. I don't know it well enough.
Oh, hi friends. What you just saw there is a clip from our Rebel News daily live stream show. It's fun, it's fast, and it's completely unscripted, so you never really know what you're going to get. Just go to rebelnews.com/livestream to sign up for special alerts